Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Book Talks with Yo. My name is Yoanna and today I'm sharing with you some middle grade books that I want to read. Surprisingly, I haven't read that many middle grade books, although I've always been a reader, so I'm not sure how that really works, but I guess it's kind of because I, like many other people who weren't born or raised in an English-speaking country, I grew up reading kind of different books for the most part than people here did, for example, and there are some common books like Percy Jackson and Roald Dahl's books, for example, but all too often I find myself in a conversation with a friend from here and they're reminiscing a childhood favorite series, book series, and I just stare at them, not knowing what they're talking about, and they are shocked that I haven't read those certain things that illustrate their childhood. But yeah, there are also a lot of new releases that I want to read, so I decided to just come up with a list with a few books that I want to read as soon as possible, because I believe that middle grade books are some of the most charming stories that there are out there, and it is never too late and you're never too old to read middle grade. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video and talk about those books. We are starting with a very popular middle grade book series that I don't know why I haven't read, and this is the Narnia Chronicles. I know that I'm very late for this, but I somehow still haven't read them. But I think I've watched the first movie when I was 10-ish, and I remember that I loved it, so I cannot really tell you why I didn't pick up the books back then, but I will now. And I know that there are 7 books in this series, and that the first one is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And in this book we meet those 4 ordinary siblings who are evacuated to the English countryside after the outbreak of the Second World War, and they stumble upon this wardrobe in the house that they are staying in, which leads them to the magical land of Narnia. And there they help the brave talking lion Aslan, who is trying to defeat the evil witch. And I remember that it was very beautiful and very magical, so I will read it very soon. Maybe it might be a whole readathon devoted to the Narnia Chronicles, because it sounds like the right way to experience the story. Another middle grade series that I really want to read is Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Montgomery. This series, I think, consists of 8 books, and it is a coming of age story, and it follows Anne from the moment she is a kid to her having her own kids, I believe. So I think that this is a very interesting type of middle grade series. And I remember that we did have the first one at home, but I don't think I ever picked it up as a kid. But I do know that it is about this girl, Anne, who is very, very spirited, very imaginative, very talkative, and she is an orphan. And we also have those 2 siblings, Matthew and Marilla, I think, and they live on a farm, and because they need help there, they apply to adopt an orphan boy in order for him to help them at the farm. But by some mistake, they end up being sent Anne instead of an orphan boy. So yeah, I don't really need to know more about the story, as it already sounds very heartwarming. Next on my list is Wonder by R. Palacio. And I think that this book is considered both a YA by some and middle grade by others, so I wasn't really sure whether to include it in that list or not, but I still want to read it, so I decided to just include it and tell you a bit about that, although you probably have heard about it already, because there was also a movie adaptation, I believe, not so recently, but yeah, there is a movie adaptation, I'm pretty sure. And this book tells the story of this boy, August Pullman, who was born with a facial difference that until the 5th grade had stopped him from going to a mainstream school. But he starts 5th grade in this new school, and all he wants is for other people to see him as an ordinary kid. But his classmates, they're young, and they unfortunately can't get past his extraordinary appearance. And I know that this book is told in a few perspectives. We have August, we have some of his classmates, we have his sister, I believe, and some other people. And I know that it is very touching and a very important book, and I really hope to pick it up soon. Next is Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. The moment I heard that this book is about a dog and a special bond between the dog and her girl, I was already sold. I was hooked. I know that we have this lonely 10-year-old girl who adopts this orphan dog whom she calls Winn-Dixie after the supermarket that she found him in. And throughout the story, we see their friendship and we see how Winn-Dixie helps this girl find friends in the small town where they live and helps her deal with the troubled relationship that she has with her father. And I already know that the relationship, the bond between those two is going to make me very emotional, and I'm definitely here for it. Next is The School of Good and Evil by Suman Chainani. And this is another quite longer middle grade book series. This consists of 6 books, and I think that the 7th and final one is being released very soon, or has been released very soon. But yeah, I think it is still being written. But yeah, and I know that it tells the story of those 2 best friends, Sophie and Agatha, who are about to start the School of Good and Evil, which is this academy where young girls and boys go to be trained to become either fairy tales heroes and princesses or villains. And Sophie, who is this charming girl, she's sure that she's going to go to the School of Good because she believes that she will pass with flying marks and she will become a proper princess. While Agatha wants to go to the School of Bad because it fits her interests and her personality more. But everything is reversed when they find that Sophie is actually going to the School of Bad and Agatha is going to the School of Good, where she is being taught princess etiquette and animal communication, while Sophie is studying things like uglification and dark spells. And yeah, it sounds like another very fun and very charming magical story, so I'm here for it. Next is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. And this is probably the one I'm most excited about and the one I've heard so many people talk about here on BookTube or on Bookstagram, and I'm really hyped. We have this town where people leave a baby as a sacrifice each year to the witch who lives in the forest nearby, hoping that this would stop her from terrorizing them. What the townspeople do not know is that this witch is actually a very kind and caring person, and she takes those abandoned babies and she delivers them to families from on the other side of the forest who are going to look after them. And on the way on this journey, she is feeding them starlight, but one day she accidentally feeds a baby with moonlight instead of starlight, which gives the baby some extraordinary magic. So the witch decides to raise the kid as her own and help her harness her magic. She calls her Luna, and as Luna is approaching her 13th birthday, her magic is starting to emerge, but the witch is somewhere, I think she's on some quest, she's away from the forest, and this man from the village decides to set out on this adventure to help and free his townspeople and kill the witch. So yeah, this sounds like a very whimsical, a very magical and very adventurous read, and honestly, it sounds like nothing I've read before, so I'm really excited. Next is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. And this book has been on my autumn. It was on my autumn TBR, but I unfortunately didn't get to reading it. But I've been wanting to read it ever since, and I've heard fantastic things about the writing style, about the story, and it essentially tells the story of this boy, Nobody Owens, or Bod as his friends know him, who is a completely ordinary kid who happens to live in a graveyard and is being raised and educated by ghosts. But the real danger lurks in the living world, as the guy who killed his family, who killed Bod's family, is still alive and is looking for him. And I know that this is such a exciting and fun adventure. I also know that it's kind of creepy, but I've survived Coraline. I think I'll be able to survive this as well. And I know that this is Neil Gaiman's unique writing style, so I don't really need to know more about it to want to pick it up. Next is Sawan and Gabi Break the Universe. And this book is by Carlos Hernandez and is one of the books in the Rick Riordan Presents series. So I am really hyped. And it sounds so funny and so charming. So I honestly, I think I'm going to pick it up. Maybe it's going to be one of the first ones I pick up from this list. And essentially, this story is about Saw, who is this young magician, amateur magician, who moves to a new town and has to deal with adjusting to the new place, adjusting to the new Academy of Art, where this is his new school. And his magic is I think he can open some holes in the time-space continuum or something like this. It is kind of sci-fi, but this is as far as I know. And he meets Gabby, and they meet in the principal's office. Gabby is there to support her friend, because her friend picked a fight with Sal, and Sal planted a raw chicken in her locker. So yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun chaos and a lot of adventure and an unlikely friendship, so I'm excited to give it a go. Next is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Jones. And I know that I've already said this about a few books on this list, but this might really be the one I'm most excited to read. And I recently watched the Studio Ghibli adaptation of this book, and I fell in love with the story. I was just charmed. It was so whimsical and it was so beautiful. It touched my heart and made me very emotional. So I've been wanting to pick up the book. It tells the story of Sophie, who is she is destined to fail miserably if she tries to find her destiny outside her home. But she somehow attracts the anger of the Witch of the Waste and finds herself under this horrid spell that turns her into an old lady. And the only way for her to break the spell is in the ever-moving castle of the wizard Howl. And I am really excited to just go back and read about Sophie and Howl and the fire demon and all the other charming characters in the story. And last but not least is a more recent middle grade series. And I mean recent because I think that the last one was just released, it was released last year in 2020. And this is the Nevermoor series. And the first book in this one is called The Trials of Morrigan Crow. And it follows the story of this young girl, Morrigan, who is cursed. She has been born on the most unluckiest day for a kid to be born. And because of this, everyone in the town is blaming her for every bad thing that happens, from natural occurrences like hailstorms or hurricanes or stuff like this, to people having heart attacks. And her curse also means that she is doomed to die at midnight on her 11th birthday. But as she's awaiting her fate, essentially, there is this man who appears and takes her to the magical world of Nevermoor. But in order to win her place there, she has to compete in those 4 trials against other kids and win her place in the most prestigious organization in this place. And it sounds very, very fun, very, very adventurous, very magical, and very original, so I'm excited for that. So that pretty much wraps up today's video. I really hope you enjoyed watching, and if you did, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on my new videos. Please let me know down in the comments if you've read any of those middle grade books and what were your thoughts on them. Thank you again for watching, and I really hope to see you all next time. Until then, have a smiley week. Bye!